What up everybody, welcome back to another form video. Before I start, I just want to say a couple of days ago I released a video about how to properly engage your hips in a disc golf backhand throw, and the feedback has been absolutely amazing, so thanks for all the positivity. Means a lot to me, and yeah, thanks for watching. Now, this video isn't really a part 2 to that other video, but I definitely recommend that you watch that video on the hips before you watch this one, because some of the stuff I talk about here is only gonna make sense if you know what I'm talking about from the other video. So I'm gonna put the link somewhere up here. I don't really know where it is, but definitely check it out before and maybe come back to this one. So yeah, let's get right into it. So basically, after that last video that I dropped, a lot of people messaged me about nose angle and what to do with your throwing arm, which makes sense because obviously a disc golf throw isn't only down here, it's also up here. But today's video is gonna be me trying to explain kind of my ideas about nose angles, what the arm should do, but mostly about what it feels like to me when I do it, and kind of what I think it should feel like. And yeah, let's start. Now, first things first, when you type in nose angle for disc golf on YouTube, you're gonna find a lot of titles and videos talking about throwing nose down. And now, generally speaking, when you look at the physics of how a disc, a frisbee, should fly or flies, it's not nose down ever. What people are really talking about is throwing as neutral as possible, but there needs to be some air coming from underneath the disc so that it flies. You can just type in physics of frisbee flight on Google and you'll find out more. So generally speaking, just as a quick disclaimer, if you see somebody talking about throwing nose down, it's just mainly about the most neutral position possible, not actually nose down. That's just something I wanted to talk about real quick. Now, in order to keep that nose angle neutral, there obviously has to happen something up here with your throwing hand that needs to be somewhat right. And I know that there are hundreds of different opinions about this. There are people that say you should pull into a 90-degree angle here, you should hit something with your elbow, pull through here. All of these things are not really what I am trying to do, and also not really what I think is very effective. My philosophy behind this is pretty simple. So, when you are in your position, I'm just gonna go stand still here. Let's say you're in kind of a reach back position. Your arm is attached to your body, like this is all attached. So to me, it doesn't really make sense to actively pull here, because if I just rotate here, down here, and bring my hips to the target, and if you watched my last video, you know how to do that the right way. If I just do that, the disc is gonna follow on a good path anyways. So if I'm just super loose up here, it's gonna work. So for me personally, I don't do any active pulling or anything. I get into a position and I use my hips, because my arm is not just gonna stop here, it's attached to my body. So to me, there's not really a reason to actively pull. And I'm gonna elaborate a little bit on this. So if you've been kind of into biomechanics and different sports, you've probably heard about something called hip-shoulder separation. And another word for that I like to use is lag. And here's what that is. I just showed you reach back position, turning the hips, your disc is gonna follow. Now, my experience is that the bigger the separation here is, so the more my hip is already facing the target while my disc is still back, the further you're gonna throw. That's the lag we're talking about. And for me, I kind of wanna create this feeling of not my arm pulling the disc through, but my body pulling my arm through. So I get into a position, and once I'm there, it's basically completely loose. And all I'm doing is I'm twisting here, coiling, whatever you want to call it, and then my disc is gonna follow anyway. So that's something that I try to do before every shot, is make sure I don't hold the disc super hard. I just kind of want it to be natural. And yeah, that's kind of like the basic part of my thoughts, but I'm gonna go a little bit more into detail here. So the reason this has something to do with nose angle is basically just physics. So you'll see some pros reach up like this, like Kelvin, Ricky kind of. You'll see some pros reach down here, but most of them are kind of shoulder height, give or take a couple centimeters. So if you're loose, you're gonna get into this great position here anyway. Some people call it the power pocket. I don't really care what you call it. But if you're loose and you rotate the right way and you brace, you're gonna reach this spot. No matter if you reach back here or reach out, rather, here, 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 here. If you're loose, it won't really matter. And now the reason this has something to do with nose angle is whenever you try to actively push like down or pull, there's a pretty high chance, in my opinion, that you're not really pulling perfectly straight. And everything that's tense is, one, slow, and two, it's pretty hard to get the exact same tension every time. Whereas just staying as loose as you possibly can, that's pretty easy to do over and over again. So that's gonna bring you some consistency. Now you might think that's easier said than done, because until now I've only been talking about already being in a good position and then staying loose and turning. So the question some of you might be asking yourselves right now is, how do you get into a good position, or what is a good position? And this to me is definitely a little bit more of an individual thing, but I'll try to change the camera angle to behind me and kind of show you what I think about reach back and what a good and a bad position seems to be to me. Alright, so camera is set up right behind me. I'm just gonna go into a standstill position right here. You can see this line is going through toe and heel. You've probably heard about this before. And now the question is, what is a good position for the disc back here? Oops. Now, my general opinion on this, as I just said, is there are many ways to do it right. And when you look at the pros, you're gonna see a lot of variations on this. So you've got Matty O kind of being like this. You've got Kelvin doing kind of this one right here. So a lot of things can work, but to me, the reason all of these things work and the reason Kelvin can throw perfectly flat, neutral nose angle with this is because he stays loose. And when you actually look at a slow-mo of Kelvin, for example, he may be up here, but he stays loose, and he gets into a perfect position just like all the other pros. So let's see, what is a good position? Generally speaking, my opinion is that being too far kind of behind your body like this is the only real mistake you can make. So this is not good, this is good, this is totally fine. Because as long as you're loose, you're gonna get into a good position. Now, obviously, in an optimal world, you would do this right here perfectly. Kind of like Anthony Barella and Eagle McMahon, who do this probably the best, and Paul McBeth, obviously. Now, to kind of show you that being too far outside isn't really a big problem, I'm gonna show you a couple of slow-mos where, first of all, I just do my normal position, which is kind of right here, and then I do a couple of positions too far out. So here you go. All right, first example is gonna be normal shot for me. So reach back is gonna be probably somewhere around here. I'm gonna try to stay loose, fire from the hips, and hopefully not grip lock because it is super cold out here. So hopefully this doesn't go too far right. should be pretty decent. And yeah, feels good, so good shot. Now example number 2, I'm gonna really exaggerate here and try to reach back really far outside here. Not really sure how much I can really do because I've just done it here thousands of times, so yeah, we'll see how it goes. Now, as you can see, I was pretty far out, but I tried my best to stay loose, and it actually was a pretty decent shot. Obviously, it was lacking some power that I would have gotten if I was a little bit more here on the line, but it was still okay. And last but not least, example number 3. Now I'm gonna try to actively push myself too far here. I hope I can kind of show you how that goes, how it goes the wrong way. And if I stay loose from here, there's a pretty high chance that this is gonna go somewhere left, most likely left of that steel pole that you can see there. If I do happen to go here and kind of tension up and start pulling, there's a very high chance it's gonna go right. So I'm gonna try to stay loose and let the disc go where it wants to go from this position. Man, this disc is wet. And hopefully you'll see why that is a mistake and how it shouldn't look like. Perfect example of how not to do it. So I was too far here, but I was still turning, and because that's just the way it goes, it went from here to here. So what you just saw is that this is gonna be kind of optimal, but this could theoretically still work as long as you stay loose. Now, the reason this doesn't work to me is pretty simple. Because if you stay loose here, you're kind of gonna hit your body and you're gonna either early release or you're automatically gonna grip it hard and kind of do this one right here, which is gonna be the grip lock that we all know and love. Now to some common mistakes. And to me, when I tell people to stay loose in their hands and throw with their hips, there is one mistake that tends to happen pretty often. So, common mistake number 1, people are back here in a good position, and if they would just stay loose and throw with their hips, it's gonna work. I'm gonna throw one right here. So I'm gonna go position, super loose, and just let my body drag my arm wherever it wants to go. Let's see how that looks. Now, what some people tend to do is they're in this position right here, and instead of staying loose at the very beginning where they start rotating here, they're pulling towards their body. And what's gonna happen is they're pulling, and all of a sudden they're kind of behind their body. Maybe not in the reach back, but at some point they're pulling too much, and then when you finish, it's most likely gonna be an early release, or again, they're gonna notice, oh no, I'm behind my body right here. I have to grip it harder to not lose it, and they're gonna grip lock it. So that's kind of the number 1 mistake that I see, is that people try to be loose, but in the worst possible moment where the rotation here, the bracing kind of starts, they're pulling here. And that not only messes up your direction, it also might mess up your nose angle. Because when you're tensed up, you're pulling, you're not letting the disc go where it wants to go. And simple physics, if it's just loose, like your arm is loose, the disc is gonna choose what the fastest line, how do you say it? Fastest path kind of is. So always stay loose. Now, big mistake number 2 that I see has more to do with how to get into position. Again, to me, this is kind of a personal thing. I don't care if you do something like this. You can go a little bit from like down to up. I don't really care about that. But the only big mistake that I see pretty often is people try to go like this, and that is possible. You can definitely do like a circular thing, stay loose and still throw it well, but coming like from the outside in again puts you at a pretty big risk for getting behind here and doing the same mistake that I just showed you twice. Alright, so quick summary of what I said so far so that it's easier for you to follow. Number one, in disc golf, when you work on your form, to me it's always important that you create a feeling, because it's very hard to say, okay, and at this exact moment you want to be right here, and then a couple of milliseconds later you want to be in a perfect 90-degree position. Like, your brain doesn't work like that. And for me, ever since I was 8 or 9 years old, that's always what my dad used to tell me. He was always like, work with the feeling, because that's what your brain can process. So the feeling that you want to have right here is, at least to me, what I've said before, make it feel like your body is pulling your arm through, not like your arm is pulling the disc through. So that's number one. Number two, you don't really have to worry about a nose angle as long as you stay loose, because you're automatically going to be in a good position if you stay loose. Number three, look out for some common mistakes, like coming from the outside or pulling towards your body at the beginning. That's kind of all I've said so far. Now, last point, I want to make sure that you as a viewer understand that this is my viewpoint. This is what works best for me, and it has been working very well for me for many years. So just give it a shot, see if it works for you the way you kind of want it to work, and yeah, just try out different things. There obviously are many different opinions about this, but this is the way I look at it, the way I've been kind of taught, and yeah, that's basically it. Hope you liked this video. As always, please, if you liked it, like the video and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Then please follow me on Instagram as well if you don't do that already. My name on Instagram is leonsonleitner_DG, so stands for disc golf obviously. And as always, big shout out to Disc Golf For You, Austrian disc golf shop, who makes these videos possible, helps me with equipment, supports me a lot. So definitely check out the store. Shout out to Latitude 64 for sponsoring me, and shout out to Moby Disc Golfing for also sponsoring me as well. So have fun practicing, and see you next time. Thanks for watching.